and to our ranking member for holding this important hearing. I am really grateful for the two colleagues to be here, but I want to, Dr. Ledford, I'm really excited that you're here, not just because of your great haircut, but also because you're from the Hoover Institution. And I was a Stanford student, Stanford graduate student, took classes over there. Larry Diamond was one of the more influential people in my early life taking his classes. I think his last book, I wish it could make it handed out to everybody. The title alone is pretty cutting. Ill Winds, I think it was, countering Russia's rage, China's, I think, opportunism. But then he talks a lot about American complacency and that this erosion of the global democracy is a failure in many ways for us to counter Russian Chinese influence. And these charts, in so many ways, really speak to that. And I just really worry. I've traveled around the world and have seen how when we step up, I was in East Africa and seeing how it was American State Department programs that really created a better environment for U.S. business investment. And I saw some extraordinary partnerships between American investors and East African leaders that transformed entire communities, literally millions of them, bringing stability, rising people out of poverty, whether it was the agricultural input, the marketing of those products, the bringing them overseas in trade relationships. Without that, though, and very candidly, people would tell me in that context, you create this environment for chaos, for terrorism, or for Chinese opportunism. And so as we look at this hemisphere, I'm just wondering, I don't know your relationship with my professor who gave me an A-. You can tell him I'm still upset about that, in his extraordinary class. But do you agree with him that there is an urgent role for the use, as he would call it, the reduction of our using of soft power, not just military power, but really the soft power necessary to counter China?
Thank you, Senator. Glad to be here all the way from the farm. I'll tell Larry you said hello.
Please.
Yes, I very much agree with Professor Diamond, the exercise of soft power, and that can be done through the State Department. And it's to a point that others have raised and that I've raised myself about constant engagement, that we have to have both high-level engagement and mid-level engagement. Ambassadors are on the ground, secretaries there, but the institutions that you've talked about to further that kind of engagement. So I'm in agreement. Don't have much more to add on that.
And let me double down there then. So I remember when Secretary Mattis sat before us and said, if you make cuts to the State Department, buy me more bullets. And when I see us now cutting programs, some of which I've visited and other of my colleagues have visited, that provide some basic health care and stability, and then we decide to do the far more expensive intervention when it comes to suddenly mass migration coming out of these unstable countries. If you were just an investor, forget advising senators, but if you were like a business investor, it seems much more wise to invest on a lot of the root causes of this global crisis of migration than to be responding to the cartels that opportunistically exploit people, the drugs that are related to that and more. Am I correct?
Yes, Senator. We always have to pair any sort of security measures with long-term development to address, as you say, the root cause strategy. Of course, the success rate is on a long-term horizon. We don't see those results as quick as we do as aggressive efforts on the law enforcement side. But we have to pair those together because you're not going to have security without development.
I'm so grateful you said that. And the last thing I'd really want to address, and I was so grateful to my colleague for bringing up the importance of expanding the aperture to the Caribbean. And Haiti is one of these crises that is, and I know the sort of faith traditions of a lot of my colleagues here, the moral urgency alone. But should we not be engaged in stability there, in trying to bring about some kind of restoration of governance or dealing with the humanitarian crisis? The consequences for our country seem to be dire. To ignore it, to pull back from using U.S. soft power and the strength of our nation, it seems to come with consequences. Would you agree with that?
Yes, dire consequences. The United States has to take a leadership role to bring democracy and order to Haiti.
I really appreciate it, and thank you very much. Please tell Professor Diamond he really shaped my view of the world, and I'm privileged that I'm in a position now that I could use the wisdom and all the good things he taught me when I was